David, we are very glad to see you here. When did you start studying NLP?
Well, before there was NLP. I met Richard Bandler when I was in college, UC Santa Cruz, and I met Richard in a bank, and he was starting some training, therapy training sessions in the evenings, teaching Gestalt therapy.
And who, in your opinion, was the founders of the NLP?
Richard Bandler and John Grinder, that's very clear.
And there are a lot of rumors in Russia, for example, about Frank Lucic, that he was the third person who invented NLP. Is it right?
Okay. Not that I know. Not that I know of. No. Not that I know of. But maybe Frank knows something I don't know.
Aha. Yes. And in which countries you were teaching NLP?
Which countries? United States, Canada, Mexico, England, Scotland, France, Belgium, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Denmark.
Oh, really?
Russia.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Sometimes people don't believe that NLP gives a result. What can we say to such people?
You're wrong. I don't think there is anything to say to such people. I mean, I suspect that these are folks who have made up their minds already about what it is. And I think it's a pointless exercise to try and convince them of anything. See, to me, that's a very different approach than somebody coming to me and saying, asking me, you know, what's going on with NLP? I want to find out. I've heard that it doesn't do anything. I want to find out if that's true, or can you explain this to me? That's different than somebody coming and saying, no, that doesn't work. The only thing I have to say to that person is, all right, you want to have lunch? You know, okay, now you've decided it doesn't work, what do we do now? I feel like there's nothing to say to that person. I'm very delighted to interact with somebody who has a questioning mind, is interested to find out. But if they just want to prove that they're right, then there's no reason to talk about it further with them. So.
Are there any scientific facts that can help people to believe that NLP gives results?
There have been a few studies here and there, and then there are also studies that didn't show any results. But that, to me, doesn't resolve the question, because scientific research is completely dependent on how the research is done, and that's even true with research that's hard science research. You know, if you're, for instance, recently, you know, some people did some research that showed particles that were traveling faster than the speed of light. Okay, this seemed impossible, and we don't know if in fact that is the case. The result of that research could have been a consequence of how the research was done. So it has to be repeated and so on to find out. Well, if it's true with something as hard science as the speed of a particle, you can imagine the complexity that's involved in doing psychological research. It's huge. So all of that is just to say, the research that's been done shouldn't convince us of anything one way or another, and that there's been very little research done. Part of that is is our fault. Those of us who are involved in the genesis and development of NLP, because we took the stance right from the beginning that research was irrelevant. Our stance was, we don't care, we're not interested in proving any kind of scientific validity for NLP, that the basis on which we were operating was, does it work in our experience? That was it. If we could do something that made a difference in our experience or somebody else's experience and behavior, that was sufficient for us. We didn't feel the need to prove it as a scientific endeavor. So that's the legacy of NLP, and it's had consequences through time, which is that since no research was done for all those years, there's no background or history of research, and it's developed without it.
You are known as one of the persons who was researching the metaphors in NLP. Why?
Why what?
Why did you study metaphors?
Well, the honest answer is I don't know. And the rest of the answer is that for whatever reason, there was just something about it that appealed to me. Somehow it intersected with who I am as a person. I like doing things in a roundabout way. Instead of going directly, I like to be basically subtle and sneaky. Okay.
Are there any good results in people who were listening to your metaphors?
No, it makes everybody really, it ruins their lives.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Are there any good results? Absolutely. I've had miracles happen with metaphors, and I've had nothing happen with metaphors. It just depends on so many factors. That is the bottom line when I hate that phrase, the bottom line, and I just used it. But anyway, the bottom line is that whenever you're dealing with human beings, and you're dealing with very complex systems, and the idea that they can be reduced to machines, if you do this, you tell them a metaphor, then they get better, or they have this response. Well, that's a fantasy. That doesn't happen. Telling a metaphor to somebody, I've had the experience of telling a metaphor to somebody that worked beautifully, and then telling that same metaphor to another person who had the same problem, and it had no effect whatsoever. Why? How come? The magic isn't in the metaphor. The magic isn't even in the techniques. All these great NLP techniques. There's no magic in them. The magic occurs in the interaction between two people through the technique or through the metaphor. That's where the magic is. And I don't think the technique doesn't control what happens, and it doesn't make the magic change. If something does happen, if a change does occur, it's because there is a useful and appropriate interaction between who I am and who this person is that I'm working with.
David, there are the borders of NLP. How do we find them? That something is NLP and something is not the NLP. How we divide these parts?
Well, yeah. I think it's gotten kind of mushy the border has gotten kind of blurry. Okay, so here's what I think NLP is. It's the study of the structure of subjective experience. That's what I think NLP is. So anything that is falls kind of under that umbrella, that this is about studying the structure of subjective experience, I think that that could be considered, could be taken into the NLP fold. In addition to that, we've had, like I said before, a emphasis, and I think it's a good emphasis, on what works. You know, we're interested in what works, what makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And one of the results of that has been to take in to the world of NLP things that work, that seem to work or work. And it, you know, they may be great things and they work and they make a difference for people's experience, but they're not really studying, they don't have to do with exploring the structure of experience. They have to do with, you know, affecting somebody's experience. So I think that, you know, what's become NLP has gotten a little bit, well, it's become unclear. It's become unclear because of that.
Are there any meetings of NLP people in America or in Europe in which you're present when they meet each other and they share new things?
Oh, they happen occasionally. Mostly they've been put together and hosted by Robert Dilts.
Is it useful for people to meet and to share new things?
I think it's fabulous. I think it's essential. Yeah.
Sometimes people believe that it's enough to sit in their small town, not to visit anything, not to share, not to learn. Always it's okay. Why should I do something?
Well, maybe that is okay for them. You know, but of course they don't develop and they don't go anywhere, and they just end up very quickly getting into the world of redundancy and doing the same thing they've been doing again and again. And if that satisfies them, okay. I don't think that. I think number one, I don't think that that's probably good for their clients.
Why?
Because I think that they. What happens is when people don't get challenged and they don't get new ideas brought in to them, they stop paying attention. You know, if I've been working using the same techniques and the same approaches with clients again and again for year after year, pretty soon I stop paying attention to the clients. Oh, here comes the problem. You know, it's that kind of problem. I use this kind of technique, and they just run through it, and pretty soon they're operating on automatically rather than actually first of all getting to understand who is actually sitting across from them, and secondly missing all these opportunities to learn from the clients that they have and learn from the mistakes that they make. So, you know, they just become, I don't know, basically computer programs that breathe or something like that. So, you know, if that satisfies them, okay. I think it's a mistake for them as people. I think it's probably a mistake for their clients in the long run. And I think it's good for the field for people to get together and you know, share ideas and argue about things and be challenged, be pushed in new directions.
Thank you very much.